Hello friends, I am so excited to tell you about Independent Media Token. Independent Media Token is a brand new way to show your support for independent media without having to donate a dime. Independent Media Token is a cryptocurrency on the Solana blockchain designed to generate funds to promote and foster the growth of independent content creators, allowing them to engage in their art without having to worry about being demonetized. Through a network of media partners, of which you yourself can become a part of, Independent Media Token's goal is to ensure the powers that be can never cut off all of our areas of funding and censor the only free voices left in the world. Join the movement today. You can pick up Independent Media Token using Phantom Wallet or the Solana wallet of your choice, where you can easily swap your Solana for IMT. Grab some IMT today and remember to always know your team. To learn more, visit independentmediatoken.com or use the link right in the description.
I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is. Eventually people are going to say, what the hell is going on? It's not enough to say it's nuts. You have to explain why it's so nuts. The invention of artificial life, the cloning of human beings, possible contact with extraterrestrials, the systems which are in place to keep the world sane are utterly inadequate to the forces that have been unleashed.
Welcome back to Forbidden Knowledge News. I'm your host, Chris Matthew. Today my guest is Charlie Robinson. Be sure and check out my films. Occult Louisiana is on Tubi, Roku, Apple, and a few more. Doors of Perception on Amazon Prime, and a brand new streaming service called Relay. It should be available on Tubi soon as well. We are booking guests for March. If you have suggestions or you'd like to be a guest, email me forbiddenknowledgenews@gmail.com. Today I want to welcome back to the show Charlie Robinson. He is an author, researcher, host of Macroaggressions, owner of Activist Post, and co-host on Day Zero podcast. Charlie, welcome back. How you doing?
Good. We've done this before. Let's get weird.
Yes, always a great time getting weird with you, my friend. If we are to believe what the mainstream media is portraying about the state of reality, we're experiencing race wars, trans wars, ice wars. There's utter madness in the streets. But if you or myself decides to go outside shopping or for a stroll, we aren't seeing any of this nonsense for some reason. Granted, the big cities, that may be somewhat true, but probably not to the extent of an all-out civil war like they're trying to portray. Their game plan is and always has been to present their virtual desired reality through the media and hope that we eventually manifest their ideologies, usually through some kind of fear tactics. And one thing that I can say is 100% true is the emerging surveillance state. I have noticed cameras and technology on every street corner to make sure you're monitored down to what you eat for breakfast and how often you poop. Man, there's a lot going on, and who better to discuss it with than the great Charlie Robinson. Before we get too weird, remind the audience a little bit about yourself and let them know how they can find out more.
I write books. At least I have been over the last couple of years, and that turned into Macroaggressions podcast, and now I'm the owner of Activist Post, and we're putting out independent articles by independent journalists who are fearless, writing about things when they matter. And it's just been one of those things that's sort of an evolution. Like I wrote a book and then tried to promote the book and did a bunch of podcasts, and someone said you should have a podcast, and that's kind of how it started. And now from that, I'm now the MC of the largest anarchist conference in the world every year in Acapulco. Well, this year it'll be in Puerto Vallarta for the first time, but Anarchapulco, which is fantastic. A week of organized chaos, anarchists, crypto bazillionaires, health and wellness people, and I get to wrangle anarchist cats and herd them all on and off of the stage for 5 days in a row in Puerto Vallarta. So I'm excited to do it. It's a blast. It's always fun for me. I get to meet interesting people. I get to do, you and I both have had conversations with David Icke. I've had the pleasure on 2 occasions, and this will be the 3rd occasion, of interviewing him from the stage remotely while he's in his man cave on the Isle of Wight, and I'm on the stage or in the audience with a microphone taking questions from the audience for David Icke and things like that. So what a trip that's been for me.
Yeah, and when is this happening again?
February 15th.
Right.
Through the 20th in Puerto Vallarta, 2026.
And is there still room for people if they'd like to attend?
Oh, yeah. So you can do it virtually, too. You can watch the virtual presentation. Anarchapulco.com is the website for it. The discount code is macro. That'll save some money. I'm not sure how much, but you can watch it remotely, or if you want to go, imagine this. Imagine you're somebody who has your own company or whatever, and you travel to Mexico to watch, to go to this amazing conference for a week, and then you write it off of your taxes as a business expense for going. I hope people are doing that. I mean, while you're at the conference, of course, you'll learn how to not pay taxes, and you'll learn how to get citizenship in other countries and things like that. So you'll have a variety of you will get an education, and you will be able to write it off your taxes. I just don't think the government will appreciate it too much. But anyway, I hope people will come on out and see. And if anybody from the Forbidden Knowledge News network who hears this and goes to Mexico, I ain't hard to find. So you got to come find me and just say, I heard you and Chris bullshitting, and I decided to get on a plane and go to Mexico in February, which, let's be honest, you don't have to twist anybody's arm too hard. Yeah. Right? You want to get out of the snow and go be in 80-degree weather with a bunch of lunatic anarchists? Come on down. Love to have you.
Do it now before it's too wild to get on a plane anymore. How do you feel about the state of things, how everything's moving along, the anti-human agendas at play?
On some level, I feel vindicated, and I'm sure you do too, because we have been talking about this stuff for years, and now it's actually happening, and people are looking at this and they're going, what is happening here? It feels like they're trying to start a war. It feels like they're trying to start a civil war, and you go, all right, well, why would they do that? And they would do that to distract from the true enemy, which is the predator class. It's them, the people at the top, that are doing this. But we're never going to focus on them. Of course, they would love for us to fight liberal versus conservative, and pro-ICE versus anti-ICE, or black versus white, or George Floyd versus, this is a scam, or whatever. So wherever you could divide people up and get them fighting with each other takes away their energy, and it puts them in a position where they're not focusing on the true enemy, which is the government. So I see this playing out exactly how you would craft things if you were about to have a humongous event, and that you knew was going to paper over all of the insanity that we've seen in the last couple of weeks. If I feel like right now, the last 3 months is like the equivalent of when Donald Rumsfeld stood up in front of the cameras the day before 9/11 and said that he had discovered that $2.3 trillion could not be accounted for from the Pentagon. People that heard that were like, that's crazy. And he announced it the day before 9/11 as a co-conspirator in 9/11, knowing that it would be wiped off of the news cycle the very next day, literally hours later. And it feels like the disclosure of all the Epstein stuff and the Trump stuff, and it feels like we're going to let it all out now, because pretty soon we're going to have something else that's going to take everybody's attention completely away from this. You're going to forget it even happened. Yeah, we disclosed the Epstein stuff, but nothing really came of that. It really wasn't anything big. Nobody went to jail. Nobody lost their job. Nobody, because World War III started the next week. You know what I mean? Like something like that. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like a catastrophe, a World War III, a war in the Middle East, whatever. Trump finally caves, doesn't want the third round of blackmail to come out that actually shows the videos of him. So he's fine. We'll destroy Tehran instead, and maybe my Zionist overlord masters won't release the evidence of me, whatever, strangling a kid or whatever the fuck Trump's doing. Oh, by the way, did you see Robin Leach having a bad weekend? Did you see that? No. From the Epstein files?
No, what happened?
Holy shit. There is a story in the Epstein files that has been making its way around talking about how at a party they witnessed this person who wrote the story, I don't know, person that was telling the story said that they watched Robin Leach strangle a girl to death at a party.
No, I didn't hear that one.
Yeah.
So you think this is going to go anywhere with the new Epstein dump? Of course not.
Well, I mean, it's Robin Leach is going to have a bad rest of his life. He's never going to be able to show his face in public again. I mean, yeah, so some of the like low-hanging fruit will, but is the Israeli honeypot blackmail sexual entrapment operation going to cease to exist worldwide? No. No, nothing ultimately will come of this. This is like people, I mean, nobody, when I say come of it, I mean, nobody will be led away in handcuffs, prosecuted, tried for their crimes or anything like that, because as Alex Acosta rightly said, he belongs to intelligence. Yeah. and just the intelligence agencies are not going to allow this to get out, as far away out of their hands. That people are always talking about like, whoa, why don't they just release the Epstein files? Because they're more valuable than gold. If you have all that information, now you're Jeffrey Epstein, essentially. Like, you guys all worked for him. Now you work for me. Now, you may be in the FBI, but it doesn't matter. I mean, that's a criminal enterprise as well. It's the it's the largest domestic terrorist organization in America is the FBI. So it's not like when the FBI takes control of the Jeffrey Epstein files that they're going to like make it known to the public. It's like, no, that's just a different crime boss took control of the information that the other crime boss had. It's just you think they're the good guys because it says FBI and you're trained to think that, oh, it's the American government. It's like, no, it's the American government's domestic terrorist organization that they use to scare the shit out of people and raid houses and perp walk people. But yeah, I don't think anything's going to ever really come of the Epstein files, except that maybe the general public now is aware that there are Jeffrey Epstein-like people out there and that there are operations like this, and that the reason why they exist is because it's extremely effective to use to control politicians. And I mean, we saw this in the 80s with Craig Spence and the callboy ring that was going on. And so it's not like it's a new thing. It's not even new that the media is talking about it. It's just that for younger people, it's probably new to them unless they're interested in like mid 1980s politics, which I doubt they are. This was happening back then, and this happens all over the place. And for normie people that like this Jeffrey Epstein thing is a bit too far, like it's a bit too much for them. It's like, well, how about I give you Jeffrey Epstein light, something that you can maybe conceptualize in a way that will resonate with you. Think about the Playboy Mansion. Just think about that.
Yeah.
That's a semi-sanitized version of Epstein Island, right? It's a sexual entrapment operation with underground tunnels that connect to other houses and things like that. We know about that. So there were some, and Hugh Hefner ties to the CIA. I mean, this is well known. So you can understand that I'm glad people are talking about Jeffrey Epstein, but just understand he was running the East Coast franchise of this. There's a West Coast operation. This happens in Europe as well. It happens in South America, happens in Asia. This is the way shit gets done. And for a lot of people, they had never even contemplated that there were characters like Epstein. And now so I'm glad that people are talking about it. But of course, I would prefer that they go a little bit further into his air quotes work with evolutionary dynamics with Martin Nowak at Harvard and the $30 million that he used to finance the evolutionary dynamics department at Harvard, with Martin Nowak talking about population game theory and things like that. You get into some real dark eugenics operations and things like that. So the TMZ Epstein stuff is out there. It's the island and the penthouse and Bill Gates getting an STD and all that stuff. That's like the clickbait stuff, and I get that. But like, if people want to take a real dark ride, there's so much more to Jeffrey Epstein than just that.
When looking at Donald Trump, do you think, even looking back to Trump 1.0, that he was aware of the direction this is headed, that he was aware of some of the behind-the-scenes agendas that would place him where he's at now?
I think Donald Trump was captured early on. I mean, I think he was captured before he became president. During his first term as president, he was handled by Jared Kushner. That's pretty well documented, which is weird because it's his son-in-law. But see, he married into a hardcore, dangerous Jewish family, the Kushners. His daughter, married into Jared Kushner's family. Jared Kushner's father was in prison. He's a fraudster. Trump has known these people for a long, long time. He's done a lot of deals with Rothschild banks. Wilbur Ross bailed him out of his bankruptcies. He's had a deep, long-standing financial relationship with Israel, with Israeli firms, with Israeli-connected, American banks run by Jewish people. You don't get buildings built in New York City without having connections to a ton of money, and that money comes from people that have ties to Israel. That's just how it is. And then his family's marrying into Zionist families as well. I mean, look at Eric Trump and Don Jr. and everything. I mean, they're all in. So he is controlled. But the best way to, I think, control Donald Trump is to allow him to think that he's actually in control, because his ego is so gigantic that he has to believe that. But the Netanyahu, look, when Netanyahu would come to New York, he would stay at the Kushner's house, and they would kick Jared Kushner out of his room so that Netanyahu would have a bed to stay in. Okay, so just so people are clear on how deep that relationship goes. And it is undeniable that Donald Trump is being blackmailed by Israel, and Jared Kushner is his handler. So I don't know that it really matters what Donald Trump thinks about anything, like what his actual personal belief system is. It might be that it lines up ideally, like it perfectly with Israel's. It could be that they don't have to twist very hard. You know what I mean? And it could be that 90% of it lines up with Israel, and there's this 10% that's like, bombing the hell out of Iran that he doesn't really want to do, but might be forced into doing.
Yeah.
So I think I'm never going to give Donald Trump any sort of pass at all. But I do think it's important to recognize that some of the decisions he makes are, I would describe this as you and I, you like space. You're interested in all that stuff, right? So
If it's
we
not
think about
fake and gay.
if it's you like the non-fake and straight version of space, like everybody else. I know, and that includes black holes, right? And you think about black holes, and they ask people, like, they ask astronomers, like, hey, how do you find a black hole if you can't see it, right?
Yeah.
It emits no light, and what they'll say is, well, you find it. Actually, you have to look at its impact on neighboring stars. If you see a star acting in a way that is unnatural, that might be because there's a black hole that you can't see exerting undue influence on it. And I just think of that as Israel, as the black hole, right? It is there, and you don't see it, but you see people acting in an unusual fashion, and you say to yourself, there must be an unseen force that is acting on that person to make them say or do the things that they're saying or doing. Kind of Chappelle jokes about this with, if you ever see me say, I stand with Israel, that's my code word that that I've been compromised, right? And that's kind of what it is. Like, so Israel to me is this black hole that is hard to pinpoint necessarily, and it's hard to have the evidence. Well, there is plenty of evidence, but you say, well, how do you just, it's known, it's behind the scenes, it's always there, and it wants something, and if you don't do what it wants, it will exert this unseen influence on you, usually through the use of blackmail, entrapment, and they will make you do something that you don't want to do. So that is always got to be a component of looking at politicians, especially Western politicians. When you see them and you go, I just cannot believe those words are coming out of that guy's mouth, man. Like how do you, it's like, you'd have to put a gun to my head. It's like, okay, well, what if they have a gun to his head?
Yeah.
In some way, shape, or form. Maybe it's he's about to say something that is going to go the wrong way against this group, and they just drop a Polaroid picture of his kid sleeping from last night.
Yeah.
And you go, okay, and then you go out there and you go, I can't believe that guy would say that. Well, maybe he's protecting his family. Maybe those guys showed him the scariest thing in the world, right? And these people are willing to cross lines that you and I would not cross, and so they may make them very dangerous. And so I think that a lot of people that get themselves into politics are just utterly captured. Either they're blackmailable, and that's why they're there, or they saw something they weren't supposed to see, and now they're not allowed to talk, or somebody threatened them. But I don't respect any of the politicians, but I also don't envy them, because I think that they are all operating on like pure primal fear. Do you see Lindsey Graham? I see Lindsey Graham advocating for war all the time. It's like, God, man, how many kids did you bury in your crawl space, dude? Like, what do they what kind of goods do they have on Lindsey Graham? Because that guy cannot stop singing and dancing for Israel, and I'm afraid if they bomb Iran, Lindsey Graham will have to consult his doctor after his erection lasts longer than 4 hours. You know what I mean?
What do you see really behind the ICE arrests? To me, it's pretty obvious there's a problem, reaction, solution to usher in and solidify the surveillance state. That's
what it is, but unfortunately, most people can't see that. They get bogged down in the the right. The Trump people are advocating for, use ICE and use this power to kick their doors in and shake their trees and, really kind of wear the masks up, and go in. It's ironic that the Republicans are saying, we want the masks on, right? Different form of masks, but the mask for the ICE agents so that nobody can see them. Ironic that they always bring the masks into this. Right. So I think that people need to, especially the people on the right, need to be careful of cheerleading authoritarianism and for advocating for more power for your guy just because he's in office and he's doing the thing that you want him to do, which is tightening up the border and deporting all these people. Never mind the fact that he isn't tightening up the border and deporting all these people. Obama deported far more people than Donald Trump had. He is, by comparison, is deported almost nobody. So what's actually going on is theater. I mean, it's really happening, but it's happening with cameras everywhere. And they're coordinating on signal. All the leftoids are coordinating on signal, and they want... And they could make this go away if they wanted to. The Trump administration. But they don't want to. I think this works in their favor. Yeah. I think that the image of them as aggressive, violent lunatics works in their favor and benefits them. And and they want you to see that. In fact, it's just funny because the show of force of them being awful ICE agents with masks on and helmets and machine guns and all this stuff, that imagery is so disgusting, but it's actually not backed up by what you envision it would be. You envision it would be like loading people onto boxcars and shit like that. None of that's happening. The irony is that when Obama was doing it, there was no media coverage, but he deported 3 million people. So you're like, oh my God, like that guy was the deporter in chief. So it just depends on what the media wants to portray it as. Because when Obama was doing it, it was stunning and brave. When Trump's doing it, he's an authoritarian lunatic who's going to start World War III. I think that look, be careful granting these powers to your team, because as soon as your team is out of office and the new team is in office, they're going to remember that. They're going to use those powers against you. And I don't trust either side, but I certainly do not trust the lunatic left with like sweeping authoritarian powers to like deem somebody mentally ill and then move them to a mental institution, which is what Trump is talking about, a legal designation calling people mentally ill. I just go, yeah, that all sounds good when you look at Portland and go, we're going to need more buses. Yeah. You know, but immediately when Gavin Newsom becomes the president, the mentally ill will be anybody who criticizes Israel.
Yes.
Right. And then you're off to the gulags. So any of these things that it's tempting to be like, well, I don't love the power, but he does need to clean up these leftoids and they're all out of their minds. And it would be great if they are mentally ill, and it'd be great if you put them in insane asylums involuntarily. You go, I know, I believe me, it's tempting to want to like cheerlead that, but be very careful because that's a slippery slope.
100%. In my intro, I was talking about cameras, the technology on every street corner to not only read your license plate, take a picture of your vehicle, but they can tell who you are by a bumper sticker, a scratch on your vehicle.
Big opportunities for entrepreneurs that are thinking about fighting back against surveillance tech, you know? Wearable cloaking hoods and mask strips on your face, invisible strips on your faces and things like that to throw off the facial recognition. I mean, you know, Minority Report's here, and I wish we didn't have to think about this stuff, but we do, because they're talking about using pre-crime. You know, that was straight out of Minority Report. And that movie was made in 2002. The book was written 30 years before that. And it's here. You know, half the stuff that they talked about that was supposed to be set in 2048 and 2052, but like half the stuff is here. I mean, we don't have 3 half-naked ladies floating in salt water reading their minds or anything, but as far as we know,
well, they do have the sentient world simulation where supposedly they can predict behavior for any given person as long as they're plugged into social media or the internet in some way.
Wow. Yeah, that's dangerous.
Super dangerous.
I worry about that stuff. I worry about that, you know, the digital prison that's being built around us, and how many people are not just unaware of it, but like enthusiastic about it. Like they mistake progress for I don't know, the surveillance component is going to make it almost impossible to be anonymous, and that's a real problem for people. And I refuse to subscribe to the argument that like, well, if you're not doing anything wrong, you have nothing to worry about. No, if you are watched, your behavior changes. Period. End of story. Scientific physics behind it. If you know you are being watched, it does something to you psychologically. If your speech is monitored and being tracked, it is impossible to quantify what you might have said but didn't say. And self-censorship, what is that? That's the most devious form of censorship ever. Like the things that you thought of and might have said and would have said had the environment been different or circumstances, you just don't say anymore because you're just like, I don't want to deal with the repercussions of that. I don't want to, fuck Israel, but I don't want to say it online anymore because like now I have to deal with all this bullshit. Yeah. So, there's that. And so you're going to see people start to quiet down, and that is a real dangerous place to be. And so I think it's important for people to recognize, like, before they close the digital prison door behind us and lock it and throw away the key. Like, we need to make ourselves as resilient as possible. And maybe that means like having 1 foot in and 1 foot out of this real world, so to speak, that we're in, and start doing things in an analog fashion. And, definitely start preparing for things. If they're going to a digital cash society, like, you need to have some gold and silver and some bullets and some whatever, you know what I mean? Like, you need to start thinking like a paranoid lunatic prepper, because things, if they get weird and you know that they have control over the digital money, people are going to want to be outside. Some people are going to want to be outside of that system. And if you're outside of that system, you're going to need to have things that are uncontrollable by the state, by the tech overlords or whatever. And so, that's part of like what a conference like Anarchapulco does, is there's a ton of solutions. We've got people building privacy coins, and we've got people teaching other people how to get residency and passports and other places. We have the president of Liberland. I'll be introducing him to the stage, Vit Jedlenka. I've done that before. That's a new country. That's the newest country they started. It's in between Serbia and Croatia. It's just this island that they took over, and it's like its own country. You can get a passport from there and everything. Nice. It's wild. So like we're thinking about, okay, they're taking us into a digital panopticon where they'll have 24/7 control. You'll own nothing, eat the bugs, and you'll like it. And we're thinking, no, thank you. We need to start planning now. We need to start thinking about this now. We need to build parallel systems that are outside of control. Now, we're not trying to fix the current system. That's broken. Something else with different money, with different people, with different ideas, with different priorities, and all of that. So that's why I this will be my 6th Anarchapulco, 3rd as the MC of it, and I leave every year just totally inspired and reminded that, like, yeah, there's a bunch of crazy shit on the horizon, and the tech overlords are coming for us. However, there are some really smart people that are thinking about things in a totally new way, and you're not alone. They see it too. They see the craziness. And so you leave there feeling like, all right, things are going to be good. Yeah. Things are going to be good. Then you go back to the real world and you're like, it sucks. But that takes about a day for that to kick in. You're like, God damn it. But you do know that there are people out there building communities, like physically building these communities, like building places in Central America that you can buy right on the beach in Nicaragua with crypto, with a variety of different types of crypto. They'll take your crypto. So if you're just like, I don't want anybody to know that I'm buying this place, like, I got guys for you. Don't worry. Yeah, like we can make this happen. So you don't have to be known. You can be private. There's ways around this. So I want people to not fall into like the, oh no, like the, as they say, like black pilling, but recognize what we're up against for sure. Like, actually it's your duty and obligation to try and get a handle on what you think is happening, but don't see it as like, oh, it's the end, because these people in government are fucking retards also. Let's remember that. They make a ton of mistakes, right? And they have these big ideas of all these policies and plans that they're going to do to us, but they forget that they're retarded as well. So they make big mistakes, and you can exploit that. And so it's not just because they say that, Agenda 2030 is coming doesn't mean that it's going to actually wind up happening, as long as you keep throwing sand in the gears and rocks at their houses and things like that. Like we most definitely have a duty and obligation to gum up the works any way we can and make it so that their plans don't come to fruition. So I want people to know that these people, though they feel like they're gods and have God complexes, they make a lot of mistakes. And also, there are solutions. There are ways that you can extract yourself from this madness. And so for people that are interested in doing that, getting honest about their situation, good news is that there's ways to exit the system, and if you're interested in looking into it, come to Mexico.
Yeah, I love it, man. Essential information for these dystopian times. Before we got on, you were telling me you've been looking a little bit deeper into this Erica Kirk situation. This is a wild one. If anyone was a honeypot, this chick, man.
Man, I understand. Leather pants and a great ass and blonde hair, you can wreck empires, right? I get it. But this poor bastard, man, he got set up by his chick. She is a deep operator, and there are dark forces at play here. And that poor guy, I had no energy on Charlie Kirk one way or the other. I just thought he seemed like a decent guy to me. I never got as an example, I put him in the same category as someone like Jack Posobiec. I think that guy's a piece of shit. I think that guy works for Naval Intelligence and Steve Bannon, and I think he's a piece of shit. But I look at Charlie Kirk and I go, I think he's just like a nerdy conservative guy who likes to argue or debate like young kids. But I didn't really think of him as a threat. I didn't think of him as, I think I might have underestimated Turning Point USA a little bit. Maybe I didn't think it was as big of a deal as it was, because it's not a big deal to me. But I might have dragged some of my own personal biases in when I looked at that and thought, they're not really doing much. But apparently they were. And so then you go, all right, well, how did that whole thing come about? And you go, well, Charlie Kirk was 18 years old, and he got hooked up with these two guys who were both 73, which is not normal, right? And they had a lot of money, and they're like, hey, what if you were the voice, one of the guys, Foster Freeze, who was the money guy, who had been backing Rick Santorum in early 2012, and then that for president, and then that fizzled out, didn't go anywhere, and then he just had his money. He goes, well, how about this Charlie Kirk guy? What if we financed him? What if we made him a thing? And that's kind of where it started. So we took some, so I think back to that and I go, I don't know about you, Chris, but when I was 18 years old, nobody was in a huge hurry to offer me a bunch of money. And if two old 73-year-old men offered me some big, great opportunity, I'd be like, I've seen Trading Places, dude. I know what happens. You don't need to. Winthorpe is going to come in here and in any second now. Get the fuck out of here with that. But, next thing you know, he's turning this into a big operation, Turning Point USA. And then... And nothing inherently nefarious early on. I didn't see anything. I didn't find anything that I thought was really bad. I think it's weird that these old guys are financing this young kid. I think it's weird, but it's not illegal, and it's not, and they weren't doing anything. These guys were actual Christians, guys, and they wanted Christianity to kind of be at the forefront of this, and they had some values propositions and all that, and by all accounts weren't really trying to make a lot of money with it. But then something changed, and Charlie Kirk's view on Israel changed, and his connections to Erica were based. They were sort of allowed, massaged, made to happen by Israeli connections, meeting her in Israel, having her connections to Donald Trump through the pageant world, having her connections to the CIA, her parents being in military intelligence. I mean, the whole
Wasn't
thing.
she on some kind of dating shows before she got with Charlie Kirk?
On dating show, she working on. She did I don't want to call it an infomercial. She did like a documentary series or docu-series for working with the CIA on talking about EMPs and things like that. I mean, like really, yeah, like 10 years before she met Charlie Kirk. I mean, really weird shit.
Yeah.
Right. The intelligence stuff. She's tied to intelligence. You know what I mean? Like that's what she is. And so, was it a setup? I mean, yeah, it was a setup, and Israel whacked him. And this whole thing is because he was pulling away, and you just can't have that. And you can't have that because look, I mean, if you're big enough, if you have a big enough platform, and you're talking about relevant things, and you know what's going on, you know what that murder was. It was a signal. If you go down the path he went down, we'll shoot you in broad daylight too. Right? So it has a chilling effect over the independent media. Like, you see what happened to that guy? Be a damn shame if that happened to you, right? So that is kind of out there, and they don't mind that. They don't mind that people think that they did it, because they did it. They did do it.
Have you looked at all into the guy, I think he's on the board of directors of Turning Point, that wrote the psych warfare manual with Michael Aquino, and he's heavily involved with the board at Turning Point?
No, I'm not surprised though. I didn't.
Man.
It's like there's some. I had someone email me talking about like, hey, what about this? I'm like, dude, I only have like an hour to talk about it. It's like there's a lot more to this, and it's a developing situation. I mean, they're gonna try and pin his murder on this Tyler Robinson guy. I mean, the whole thing just seems like everything feels very fake, very fake. Not just that, but like the Luigi Mangione shooting, that feels very fake. Everything about this feels like I find myself trying to remind myself that the Smith Modernization Act of 2012 legalized propaganda in America to be used on Americans, and I just think about that from time to time. Like, what if what if all this stuff was like filmed on a soundstage?
Right. Well, there's so much to consider with that. I wonder all the time how much of these high-impact events are pure theater. And I've been talking with a few people lately about the level of AI that we have access to versus military-industrial, three-letter agency AI that has been around for decades that we had no idea about, that is maybe 100 times more powerful than what we have access to now. But if they had even what we have access to now 10 years ago, they could have been creating scenes and putting it out as news stories, and no one would be able to tell the difference.
Yeah. So I remember in 2010 watching a video by a company called Magic Leap. And it was filmed in a high school gymnasium, and they had all the kids in the bleachers of a basketball, around a basketball court. And they'd set up their cameras on the four corners of the basketball court, roughly. And they had all these kids, they're like, I don't know, maybe first graders or whatever, sitting in the bleachers. And they made it appear like a humpback whale came flying out from the floor, turning and then landing and splashing water all over the kids. The kids all reacted like there was a way. They all just jumped back and like tried to move out of the way of the water that wasn't actually there. That was 2010. And that company, Magic Leap, is a member of the World Economic Forum. So,
Wow.
so if they, so when it comes time, that's retail technology in 2010 that can make it look like a whale's coming out of the floor. What was the military grade at 2010? Then fast forward 15 years, 16 years now further, and you just go, oh my God, like it could all be fake. It really could all be fake. And especially if we get into World War III, I mean, how much of that is going to be just wag the dog? I mean, just, stories that are created, AI, fake, or, filmed in some fake battlefield somewhere, drone footage that's grainy, you can't really tell. I mean, it's just a million ways. And you don't need to get everybody to believe it. I think that's the most important thing to remember when it comes to these crazy things like the propaganda, even when it's like junior varsity level propaganda. I sometimes have to think about like, that messaging wasn't for me. That was for somebody else. Like, I'll see it and I'll go, oh my God, this is like obvious horseshit, right? But then I'd be surprised how many other people can't see that it's obvious horseshit, right? It works on them. And I go, oh, maybe this messaging isn't for me. Maybe it's just, it's like when you get those spam emails, they're like so poorly written that it's obvious that it's fake. It's like anybody that responds to that is like, what, you're an African prince with $1 million fortune for me? Anybody that can't see through like the grammatical inconsistencies, you go, oh, I'm dealing with a dummy here. Like I'm dealing with a legit stupid person. Yeah. Like I may be able to get their money, right? So sometimes the story, it almost feels like intentionally shitty.
100%.
Just to make sure that the low, like the people at the bottom of the totem pole, like, get like an absurd story. And they're like, dude, did you hear they got like bases on the Mars, jump rooms to Mars and shit like that?
What about our monetary situation, the state of crypto? Seems like we've been waiting for a financial collapse for almost over a decade. How do you feel about where we're at with everything in our monetary realms?
Not great, unfortunately. I mean, it's like we're seeing the price of gold and silver go through the roof and then come crashing down. They're getting heavily manipulated. On the way up, they're not getting manipulated. I mean, what's been happening is that the foot has been put on silver in particular. It's been every big bank is shorting paper silver into the market and has been doing that for 10 years. They've been busted doing it. They paid fines. Nobody goes to real prison for it, but they are manipulating the price of silver and have been doing it forever. It's not even a conspiracy theory. It's like you can find the cases of them being found guilty. And it still happens. But it's broke. They're not able to do what they used to do. I don't know the mechanisms. I don't know why there's a lot of people that are starting to ask for their own silver back. They want it. They want delivery of silver. They are not comfortable with these paper contracts on silver, and they shouldn't be because they're rehypothecated 100 to 1. So like, meaning like for every ounce of silver that exists, the banks have sold 100 paper ounces of that same 1 ounce piece. So it's like they built a Ponzi scheme on top of sound money, gold and silver, and the paper Ponzi scheme is coming undone. That's impacting the banks. The banks are like, we cannot deliver silver at $117 an ounce. We have to hammer it down. So then they hammer it down. It goes down to $85 in one day. Mathematically impossible. Like just complete market manipulation. They closed the market. They closed the silver market for a day and said it was a technical glitch, which was bullshit. And then they paper shorted the hell out of it the next day when they reopened it with like a full barrage and knocked it down like $30. Knocked the price of silver down $30 in hours, which is, again, a 10 sigma event. It cannot happen naturally.
Yeah.
So they're freaking out. So the banking system is on the verge of collapse, right? All it takes is one major bank to not deliver on a derivatives trade, to not be able to pay, and they say we don't have any money. And then the other side of that derivative trade's like, I won, but I can't collect, so that's not a win. So now I lost. So then that starts a cascading effect where every bank is connected to one another. And derivatives are bets on bets on bets. You know what I mean? Like they're betting on. It's like if you went to Vegas and there was people playing blackjack in front of you, like the whole table playing blackjack, and you were watching it, and then you started betting with your friends that you were watching it with. You were just standing there, you're like, well, I bet you $10 that this guy wins. And then that's derivatives. And then your friend goes and bets some cocktail waitress about it too. And then she bets somebody else. That's the derivatives market. It's bets on bets on bets. And if one party can't pay, it screws the whole thing up, because the other guy who is like, I won this bet is winning a bet that he can't collect on. So it's not a win. And because these banks are all in business with each other, if one goes down, they all go down. Unless they do something weird, like what they did in 2008, which was like arranged marriages. Like, all right, Lehman Brothers has to walk the plank. You two banks, you guys are married now, you merge. And they're like, well, we don't want to get married. Like either that or we put one of you out of business. Yeah. So like that'll happen. Medium-sized banks are poised for a huge catastrophe because they do the bulk of the lending on commercial real estate, and commercial real estate is in a real bad spot right now, nationwide, but it's particularly in blue-run shithole cities like San Francisco and Seattle and places like that. So the commercial real estate market could take down the medium-sized banks. That would be a problem. The crypto market Bitcoin's been treading water down all year. There's nothing going on there, and Tether looks like the most dangerous company in the world. So I mean, it's going to be. We're about to live through a economic transformation where things are vastly different in 5 years than they are today, and that's not going to be. It's not going to be great. I mean, I think people will find opportunities there. I think there will be pockets of people that do very well in something like this because they see what's coming on and they like kind of plan accordingly. But if you're just kind of head down, going to work, not paying attention, I think the change is going to be. People don't do well with change. If you change their money, if you change their money too quickly, it could be really detrimental to them, and this could be a real mess. So I'm optimistic in some respects. I think people will find ways to make this work for them, and they'll be ahead of the curve, and they'll maybe even do very well. But for the vast majority of people, I think that this is probably going to be a bad thing, that their quality of life will diminish, and that the amount of money that they have will be reduced because of the inflation of the dollar, the money supply. So I think people should be thinking about getting, again, with parallel systems and different ways of looking at things. Owning physical gold and owning physical silver it doesn't have a counterparty risk. So it means that if I own a gold coin, for me to do well, I don't need somebody else to not do well. It's just I own it, and that's it. Nobody else owns it. Nobody else has a claim to it. It's just mine. And it's not a bet, and it's not a bet against somebody else. So, so once you have that really is not what the banking system would like. They want you in there because they need, for the dollar debt Ponzi scheme, they need you constantly borrowing, and because that inflates the money supply, and it's a Ponzi scheme, so it has to constantly be inflated. And anything that is against that is a threat to them. So gold, silver, Bitcoin, Monero, things like that. Some of the crypto that people like is viewed as a threat to this dollar system. And so what you see is that the government is like, all right, well, we can't stop what's happening with crypto. Maybe we can co-opt it with Tether. Maybe we can use Tether to buy all the U.S. treasuries, and then Tether will be like, it can really replace the bond market, or it can replace like the Fed. And so I think we're going to get something where I could envision a scenario in the future where they seem to give us in the alternative media, I don't know, crypto anarchist community, a victory by ending the Federal Reserve, but I could see it not mattering because the Federal Reserve is now obsolete with Tether.
Do you see a centralized crypto on the horizon, government crypto?
No, not in America, because everyone would be looking for that. It's going more the route of stable coins, as they say. They call them stable coins, but again, very important that they call them stable coins because, hey, it's stable, right? It's pegged to the dollar. Theoretically, it's not jumping like the way Bitcoin or Ethereum or something like that could jump. But it's a surveillance coin. I mean, it's a programmable coin. So you're walking into a massive trap with that because it'll be tracked, traced. It could be confiscated. It could be set up to not work in certain places. You know, you talk about like 15-minute cities and things like that. Like maybe it's just set up geographically that like based on where your home is, and of course they would know, it just only works within like a 15-minute radius. So like it's not so much that there's a wall built around your 15-minute city. How could you do that? Because everybody's 15-minute city would be just a little bit further away. But it's a digital wall. It's a digital firewall, like a geofencing, where it's like, yeah, your money works inside your place, but once you get outside of it, maybe it doesn't work at all, or maybe you get a bad exchange rate when you go to the next town over or something. I don't know. But the point is they can do it. And if they can do it, eventually they will do it.
You think safe bet investment would be gold right now?
I mean, I would be a buyer of gold and silver. And it's just a bet against the system. I mean, first of all, I must say I'm not licensed to give financial advice. I am licensed to give real estate advice. I could talk about that all day long. But my personal opinion on this is like, if you know that what you have in your bank account are Federal Reserve notes, they're not even dollars, they're Federal Reserve notes, and you know that they're losing 10% of their purchasing power every year due to inflation, right? It's just whittling away. It's just like invisibly eating away like a tenth of your dollar every year. Why wouldn't you just transform that into something else? And it doesn't even have to be gold or silver, you know, just like anything else. You go, I would rather buy bullets than, which I know are worth something, probably going to be worth more at some point, right? Yeah. You may even think of it as an investment, but just you know that they're going to be worth something to you. They're definitely going to be worth something to somebody else, right? They have value. Mm-hmm. I don't think I'm not an expert in bullets, to be fair, but I don't think the value of bullets is going down 10% a year. I don't think so. And so I'm just saying that bullets is my example, but it's really anything. It's like, get yourself assets that aren't a debt, you know, that aren't a liability on somebody's balance sheet. To get your things paid off. Don't owe people money. Don't owe, you know, like to the extent that you can get that taken care of. Like, you need to understand your relationship to your bank account. It is not your bank account. You are an unsecured creditor in third position behind the shareholders and the bondholders, then you. That bank account it is the property of the bank. And you are just using that account, right? So people think, well, I'll just go get my money out of my bank account. Oh, no, you will not. No, you will not. Go try to pull 10 grand in cash out of your bank account if you have that right now and see the reaction on the branch manager's face. They'll start asking you a million questions and they will tell you they don't have the money there. They can maybe order it for you, but they'll try every way in the world to talk you out of that. So you like, people need to get honest about the banks, and most people don't know that about the bank. And then they go, well, that may be true, but the FDIC is backing my account by up to $250,000. And, if that is the case, then even if we have a big banking collapse, then, still get my money because it's insured. Well, I have bad news. The FDIC has about 1.9%, 1.6% of all deposits on hand, which means that for every dollar, they have 1.6 cents.
Huh.
And it just in their account. And that money that they have is all invested in bonds that are upside down. So they are practically insolvent. The FDIC is practically insolvent. And if there is a banking collapse, you are in third position on your bank account, and you're backstopped by the FDIC, which is insolvent. Right now, in the best of times, it's insolvent.
Wow.
So, like, if you know that and you see that and you go, okay, I don't want to keep my money. Like, so you just say, I'm going to keep the amount of money in my account that I need for like my monthly flow and grind and whatever I'm spending. But like anything, if you're in a position where you have excess, you're not letting it sit there because you now have a different understanding about what that bank account is. They can come in and take that money. Oh, and also, by the way, really important point. The G7 passed bank bail-in legislation, which means that in the event of a systemic banking collapse, the banks can take your money, the money in your bank account. They can take your money to make themselves solvent.
Yeah.
It is legal for them to steal your money out of your bank account that's not actually your bank account. So again, it's like they can do it because when you read the fine print of your contract, you kind of sign away that anyway. But even if you forget about that, they went through and made sure to legalize it in 7 of Western nations because they intend to use it, because they're going to do it. They wouldn't legalize it if they're not going to do it. So they're going to do it. They're going to steal the money out of your bank account. They are going to do that. So don't have a bunch of money in your bank account if you don't want it stolen. It's like the same advice people give when you're buying crypto and you're buying it on an exchange or something like that. Don't leave it on an exchange. Not your keys, not your coins. Like if you leave it on an exchange, they can and will periodically steal your shit. Yeah. So the U.S. government and the banks will steal your shit as well. They legalized it, so they're going to do it. So I mean, if that can't get through to people, I don't know what will.
This is such important information. Charlie, thank you so much. Before I let you go, you've got macroaggressions going, got day 0 tomorrow. What are some of the exciting things you got going on?
Got macroaggressions is twice a week. Interview on Sunday, monologue on Wednesday. We're not on like 600 plus episodes in, so it's been quite a ride. Macroaggressions.io is the website for people to find out information about that. Activistpost.com, get your news there. We didn't build an app for your cell phones because we knew from Zero Hedge they would shut it off. Yeah. But you can get it on your cell phones. You just got to open it up in a browser, go to activistpost.com, bookmark it. Great resource for articles, podcasts, all kinds of things. Check it out. Get on our mailing list. Our mailing list is badass. I promise you, we give you good email solution series every Wednesday, Sunday post every Sunday, top stories of the week, good stuff. Awesome. So yeah, and that's it, I think.
And go check out Anarchapulco for sure. We'll have the links down there.
Yeah, anarchapulco.com. Go check out, just go, even if you're not going to go, just go to anarchapulco.com and check out the list of speakers. It's going to be wild, man. I saw the schedule. They've got me like from 9 a.m. till 6 p.m, 5 days a week, or all 5 days of the week, and then at night for like the mixers and got like a networking event and musical guests going on and dinners and things like that. Dude, I'm going to need a vacation from my Mexico vacation.
That's awesome, man. Well, Charlie, thank you again. We will, of course, be doing this again in the future. Until next time, everyone, have an excellent evening. We'll talk again tomorrow. If you're looking to start your therapeutic microdosing journey, but don't know where to start, especially when looking for the highest quality ingredients, including nootropics, and what you'd expect from a true microdose capsule. Check out our friends at Brainsupreme. They offer the absolute highest quality ingredients so you can start your microdosing journey knowing that you're getting top-notch ingredients. To find out more, visit their website using that link right in the description, and you can get 15% off your entire order. Are you and your family prepared for an emergency? Maybe the fake alien invasion? Now is the time to prepare yourself and your family for any event. Check out Prep Starts Now. Their mission is to provide high-quality preparedness products that empower individuals and families to be ready for any situation. They're committed to delivering reliable, trusted gear to ensure your safety, security, and peace of mind in times of need. Their product selection is carefully curated to provide you with the essential gear you need to stay prepared. From emergency kits to tactical tools, every item is chosen for its reliability and practicality. Prep Starts Now understands the importance of family, and their goal is to equip you with everything you need to build a solid plan for your family's preparedness. In today's ever-changing world, being prepared is more important than ever, and Prep Starts Now is here to help you and your family stay ready with quality products and practical guidance. Use the link in the description and get 15% off your order. We live in an incredible age of information. More and more, we're discovering that we've been lied to and misled about much of our human history. Cory Hughes is providing profound revelations about World War I, World War II, the JFK assassination, Martin Luther King's assassination, and much, much more on his new Substack, Bloody History. Subscribe now for as little as $5 monthly. Just click that link right in the description to get started now and learn about our true history.